Okay, we're gonna get started. I'm gonna do roll call. Tom? Here. Bob? Here. Mark? Here. Dave? Not yet?
He did indicate, I just got a message from him that he's joining virtually. He's just a little bit late.
Okay. Mel? Here. Laverne?
Present.
Nancy?
I'm here.
Margaret?
Here.
And myself, Dale. Any members with a conflict of interest today in any applications? Seeing none. It is 9:15.
All right, we're all set for the first file. So we're hearing HMA 2384 for 84 Traymore Avenue in Hamilton. We have the agent registered to speak and no other interested parties.
Is the agent available?
Yes, he's in the meeting.
Did you have a chance to read the comments that were posted?
This is Matthew Prater-Candley, the agent of the owner. Address 107 Gladstone Avenue in Hamilton, Ontario, L8M2H8 postal code.
It might just be me, but I'm having a little trouble hearing. Did you have a question?
He was providing his address for the record.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, that's better.
Okay, good. So if it's okay with you, I can proceed with my comments.
So on variance 2, the parking, staff has an issue with that.
Yes, that's correct. So I have had an opportunity to review the consolidated staff report to see that, yes, there is a concern with variance number 2. I'd also like to note that we have spoken with Mr. Sebastian Cumming, zoning examiner at the City of Hamilton. We confirmed that bill number 137 passed in June 2022 is applicable for this property. And so the required number of parking spaces is 3 and not 5. This bill states that parking need not be provided for a secondary dwelling unit, provided the existing parking spaces are maintained. In this case, our variance would be for 1 parking space where 3 are required. So today I would like to put forward a motion to amend variance number 2 to 1 parking space shall be provided instead of the minimum required number of 3 parking spaces. And in addition to this, and after very, very helpful discussions with city staff, we're informed that 2 parking spaces can fit on this lot as it currently exists, 1 on the existing parking pad in the rear yard and 1 on the existing driveway in the front yard. Currently, the lot is being used in this manner and has been for over a century. Our concern with amending the variance to 2 spaces where 3 are required is that during the permit approval stage, there could be an interpretation of the bylaw that only allows the front yard parking to be counted. This is because the existing driveway leading to the rear yard does not meet the required minimum width of 2.8 meters. It is currently 2.22 meters at the narrowest point, which is at the bay window. This is an original condition of the house. Mr. Sebastian Cummings at the city has confirmed to us that if the driveway width matches that which was originally approved and constructed, then the driveway width would be a legal non-complying status. However, we are not 100% certain what was originally approved. Even though this driveway and house have been here for many years, it could be possible the city has something different on record. Considering this, and to simplify the permit approval process to ensure there's no different interpretations of the bylaw at the permit stage, we would like to move forward with a variance of 1 parking space where 3 are required. We have noted that multiple other properties in the area have been granted a parking reduction of 2 spaces, so we believe we fall within this precedent. In addition, in the consolidated staff report, we noted the transportation department confirms that this area has a reduced need for off-street parking. Regardless of this driveway width concern and bylaw interpretations, 2 cars do park in tandem on this driveway and have been for many years. The lot can accommodate a legal parking space in the front yard, and it appears the original intent of the lot was for rear yard parking, which is why there's a driveway leading to the rear yard. In light of this, we believe this parking variance is indeed minor. It does meet the 4 test. It would be greatly appreciated if the committee could acknowledge our concern with the variance of 2 spaces where 3 are required and grant a variance of 1 space where 3 are required, knowing that there is indeed 1 legal space in the front yard and that the driveway can accommodate 2 spaces. And in actuality, even more spaces. It would be very frustrating for the owner to get hung up on a bylaw interpretation and stuck coming back to the committee on a technicality. In addition, given the housing crisis in the city and the Provincial New Homes Master Act, we believe this application is indeed minor, suits the bylaws and official plan, and is suitable for the land use and area. This would be the end of our comments, and I would defer to the committee for any questions or a decision.
Okay, thank you. Does the committee have any questions? Motion? Nancy?
I appreciate the applicant's explanation there. It makes a lot of sense to me, so I'll move this for approval with the
moved by
change
Nancy.
to number 2.
Okay. Second. Bob? All in favor? Opposed?
Seeing none?
Motion carried, application approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. I would just like to confirm that variance number 2 was changed to 1 parking space where 3 are required.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, and we're all set for the next file. We're hearing HMB 2321 and HMA 2383 for 46 to 48 Brock Street in Hamilton. We have the agent and applicants registered to speak and no other interested parties.
Okay, is the agent available?
Good morning.
So please make sure that your microphone is turned on when you're speaking.
Yes, good morning. Leonie DeGraff.
Did you have a chance to read the comments that were posted?
Yes, I did.
And do you have any questions?
I do. So this is new for me, so bear with me a little bit. But so it mentioned that a land surveyor's reference plan was going to be requested. And since the titles were merged, I'm just wondering for clarification on the need for a survey.
So that is a standard condition. If you are able to prove that there is title that is registerable at the land registry office, as noted in that condition, then you can apply for an exemption.
Okay, because I submitted the parcel registry that showed that it used to be 2 lots and that it was merged on title.
Yeah,
So
I can help with that because
Yep,
I've
Mark.
had this happen several times. So when I've had an inadvertent merger in the past, and there are 2 pins, 2 legal descriptions, and the legal descriptions are considered adequate by the registry office, they'll give an exemption to the reference plan. So you have to approach the registry office for an exemption. If you
Excellent.
don't know how to do it, find a real estate lawyer that you know, and they might be able to stick handle it better.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate your input. Number 2 says outstanding realty taxes. I'm not aware of any outstanding taxes, but
again, that is a standard condition that all taxes are paid before a lot is severed.
of course, understood.
I move to approve both applications.
Thank you.
Okay, moved by Mark, seconded by Tom. All in favor?
You're not here for this one, are you? No. Yeah, they said no interested parties.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure.
Opposed, if any?
Fair enough.
Seeing none? Motion carried, application approved.
Thank you very much.
Just wanted to make sure.
Sorry, could I clarify that the variance, was that amended as per zoning with the additional variance for, I believe it was for lot area? Mark?
Mark, you okay with that?
I just wanted to clarify that that motion for the variance was approved as amended per zoning with the additional variance for lot area. Okay, thank you. right, and we're all set for the next file. So we're hearing HMA 2385 for 147 Bold Street in Hamilton. We have the agents registered to speak and 2 interested parties. For the record, could the agents, when they're sitting, please make sure that your microphones are turned on. And we just need to state who's speaking.
Okay, for the record, is the agent available?
Donald Gregory Weeks, Weeks Engineering, agent.
Did you have a chance to read the comments that were posted?
Yes, we did.
And do you have any questions?
No, we don't.
Okay, there's some concern.
So we'll just have the interested parties, so if you could just step back so that they're able to come to a microphone.
Okay.
So we'll hear from Sharon and Gerard Dion. And just make sure the microphone is turned on when you're speaking.
Press the base on your machine.
Yep. You're good. The red light's on, you're good.
You're good.
This be good?
Yeah.
The middle button.
Okay. Yes, we just had a few concerns about the property of 147. We've lived at 143, which is the house directly next to it, and we've lived there for 42 years, almost 43. We've seen lots of landlords come and go, and we were a little confused by some of the wording on the paper that we received about variances and procedures and everything, particularly about how much green space would be remaining and how much would be paved for new parking. The problem we've had is that it's been paved before, and it had asphalt on, and that was taken out. And they did like side parking in a row so that all the cars were kind of lined up. And now there's a huge wire fence blocking the one small area of green space on our side. So our house is an old semi, so we have one view, which is to the west, and there is a little green space where our deck is on the side in the next 147's garden that we can look at. I'm just wondering, will that green space remain? Or are we going to be looking at parked cars in the green space, which I find distressing? We're hoping that maybe some trees will be planted or something to sort of upgrade the property. And I say this because without reading this entire thing that I've written here, we've seen a partial collapse at that house that has been dealt with before. We've seen really lax landlordship, and we're very proud of our home. We've won a Trillium Award before. We take very good care of our property, so I'm just a little worried that because it's a three apartment place, we've lived all since last fall with the most horrible wood, I don't know even what to call it. It's just bare boards tacked up in all which way directions, holding up the balcony that's going to fall off from the attic floor. And that's our only view from our dining room or from our kitchen. And what's going to happen with that balcony? Is it going to be relocated elsewhere? Are they going to fix it so that it's stabilized? Things like that we're not sure of and are concerned about.
Okay, are those your concerns and questions? Because we'll have the agent or owner talk about your issues.
Do you want
Well, I just wanted to add that
we're certainly not opposed to fire escapes, and
No.
those are absolutely necessary, and I hope the committee understands that. And I just wanted to point out too, for the current landlord, that in the past, the most successful kind of parking was angle parking they had on the front part of the yard. I don't know if that was the most efficient way. We see people come and go and park the cars, and everybody knows where they are, and everything is fine. I did have a question as far as the parking is concerned. How many spaces have been allotted?
No, you just pose your questions, he's writing them down, and then they're going to come up and
Oh, I
answer.
see.
them.
I see. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
We've never done this before.
Not for a long time. I think that's probably our summation of concerns.
Yeah, I think so. I'm sure I'll find something that I missed, but basically those are the main things. And
Yeah, and we hope to have good neighbors. We've get along very well with them, and I think the improvements that the committee's being asked to consider are rational, and I hope they are passed. Thank you.
Okay.
I missed the time to get pictures in, but I did have some good pictures. Oh, one more thing is the garage. The garage along the roof line, just under the roof, has all fallen apart and is open. There have been raccoons, possums, a cat that I saved and rehomed, living in there and getting in the
And that's on the,
on the north side mostly, but it's starting on the south side
yes,
too.
the decay has started there. It's
Yeah.
like a bad tooth.
And it's been a strange property. There's been a suicide in the garage before, and there's been, like I've already said, a partial collapse that was rectified over time.
Okay, well, maybe the agent and owner can answer some of these issues.
Okay. Oops.
What we do have to realize that just what's in front of us today are the three variances. You know, some of your issues we really can't deal with today. You know, the fire escape, the landscaping, and the on-site maneuverability, those are the three variances that are in front of us today.
Okay.
And some of these other issues, you know, we really can't deal with them today.
Where will the fire escape go? Does anyone know at this point?
They'll answer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay?
We're
Thank you.
nervous here. Thank you very much.
Donald Weeks Engineering. So I took notes on some of the questions. So there's three variances that are being proposed. The first one is, this whole process started actually because of a repair to the fire escape. It was derelict, portions of it were falling down, and we were retained to get a building permit. We've applied for a building permit, and then the issues of the road widening came up on Bold Street, because there's a road widening allowance, which actually goes right through part of the building now. So that's why they lost area on the property. Even though it's physically there, it's now under the road allowance, and that's why we're having a landscape area issue, is because if this road allowance or the road widening wasn't in place as it was, say, originally 100 years ago, the ratios are fine. However, because of the road widening allowance, that's now city property, it doesn't count towards the private property side, hence we have we're off by about 2% on the landscape area. In terms of getting the balcony/fire escape repaired, it's going to be fully rebuilt. That's part of the building permit application that's going through. It's going to be in a similar location to where it is right now, serving the third floor and second floors. So it's going to be fully rebuilt. The bracing that was on site was temporary bracing, I believe, to shore it up. It's not being even used right now because it was deemed to be unsafe. So that part of what we were hired to do was to get it replaced and repaired. The fence against the property line, that's not part of this application, or nor any kind of landscaping elements in terms of bushes or shrubs or anything along the fence lines. So that this application is, again, there's the landscape area, the parking maneuvering space that goes along with that, and also the encroachment that was already approved, meaning there's an overlap. So again, I can't comment on the fencing and on the garage which is on the south side of the property. That's not part of the application. I'm not aware of the details on the garage, so. If
Yeah,
there's
but
any
perhaps when
questions-
you're done, you might want to chat with them outside. That might not be a
Yep.
bad idea.
Yeah.
Okay, committee have any questions? A motion? Laverne?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Turn your mic on.
There you go.
I'm trying to make a motion to approve.
I'll second. Okay, moved by Laverne, seconded by Mel. All in favor? Opposed?
Seeing none?
Motion carried, application approved. And as one of the members said, maybe you can just have a short meeting with the neighbors just to ease some of their concerns.
And Mr. Chair, I believe for the record, we do have David present with us now.
Okay.
All right, and we're all set for the next file. So we're hearing HMA 2393 for 56 Charlton Avenue West. We have the agent registered to speak and no other interested parties.
Okay, is the agent available?
Yes, I am. Hello. My name is Michael Pongetti from Deck Inc. Thank you, everyone, for meeting for this today. I've read the comments, and we have no concerns at this point.
Okay, does the committee have any questions? Motion? Nancy?
Move it for approval?
Moved by Nancy, seconded by Laverne. All in favor? Opposed?
Seeing none?
Motion carried, application approved.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great day.
All right, we're all set for the next file. We're hearing HMA 2388 for 647 Barton Street East in Hamilton. We have the agent registered to speak and one interested party.
Okay, for the record, is the agent available?
Yes, I am. Bill Curran, architect and owner of the property.
Okay, I do see there's a number of variances that are recommending denial. Did you want to table and look at these again, or did you want to hear?
I definitely want to hear.
Okay.
Just for the record, we started with 14 variances required to build an existing 3-story building on Barton Street. I think you've seen the renderings that we provided. Basically, we're building back what was there. It's a 0 lot line building to the east, a 0 lot line building to the west, 0 lot line to Barton Street. 3 stories, commercial unit on the ground floor, and apartments on the 2nd and 3rd floor, and there's 1 rooftop unit that's not visible that'll be a little larger. Down the side, next to the commercial unit, we're building 1 residential unit facing onto Earl Street, and then behind that is surface parking with the building over top of it on stilts. If we start with what's allowed, we're allowed an 8-story building. We did a diagram for the planning department. We propose a
Sorry, was
3-story
that
building.
provided to the Committee of Adjustment?
I
with
believe
your
it was part of our
submission package?
application, or I can circulate it if you'd like.
No, I don't believe I see it as part of your submission
then
package, so it will not be able to be entered into the record.
Okay.
It needed to be provided in advance, sorry.
My apologies, I thought it was part of the package. When we got to the planning department, we were told we needed a 3-meter road widening on Barton, a 12 by 12 meter daylight triangle on the corner, a 7.5 west setback to our neighboring building, a 4.5 5-meter east setback. What we're left with is a building that's 12 feet wide, 3 stories tall, and half the depth of the lot, and the rest of the back had to be left open for garbage and maneuvering. Basically, what we were told we could build, even though the GFA should have been perhaps 4,000 square meters, and we probably should have been building 30 or 40 apartments, they were telling us we could build 2 townhouses on the property. Which is, of course, in a housing crisis, and at a time we voted as a community to wholeheartedly not build on greenfield and to embrace intensification. Our planning rules do not allow it, and it's very frustrating that we can only build 2 townhouses on a site that should hold 40 apartments, and it's indicative of bigger issues in our planning bylaws. So, having said that, we applied for site plan approval. We were told that this building, 3 stories, is over intensification in writing by the planning department. We have persisted in our application, and by some clever manipulation of rules and playing around with numbers and the design, we're before you looking for, I don't know, I think it's 6 variances. It was 14 and it's gradually, we whittled them down. Maybe we can just talk to the 3 that are in question. If you recall, not that long ago, I was in about ground floor residential in the downtown core. Asking for those variances. If you recall, you approved at 121 King, the Gore Lofts, which have just been completed at the corner of Catherine and King. We converted a pile of vacant residential that they couldn't sell or use into 6 small dwelling units. They sold at a very good price, and they're all fully occupied. If you drive by the building today, ground floor residential, when designed properly, actually can be fantastic. That's the building.
Sorry, again, any documents that were not submitted as part
I'm sorry,
of the
I can't
record-
show images
Not
at
unless
all.
they were submitted in advance. If you wanted to provide presentations, you needed to contact our offices in advance so that we're able to share them with all of those who are participating
Okay.
virtually.
I get you.
Unfortunately, our cameras are not set up to be able to see
I understand.
it.
I'm sorry, I wasn't
I
aware that that was
apologize.
the case.
Yeah, this is a function of the new online thing. In the olden days,
Okay.
we loved when you brought it in and
Yes,
everyone was
exactly.
here,
Pass it
but now we
around
have
or
people that
present
are
it on the
online
screen.
and
Okay.
see.
So I won't show the Greenwich building on Cannon Street with its ground floor 6 units that have remained vacant for 6 or 10 years that could be ground floor residential. Instead, we made them spend $1 million to build empty commercial space and not have any vitality on the street. There are, of course, houses on Barton Street today that I won't show you. There are 80 dwelling units today between James Street and Sherman Avenue on the ground floor. There are houses with front yards on Barton Street, 80 of them. There are also 70% of the storefronts along that stretch of Barton are vacant, underutilized, or illegal dwelling units. And if you recall, the last time I was before you was to protest the redevelopment of the Colonial Tavern into what was considered by some in the BIA to be slumlord ground floor units. We're proposing 1 unit on Earl Street, not on Barton, and it's modeled on the units at Barton Street that I can't show you in Village by the Grange in Toronto, which are huge successes of ground floor residential. The way we make ground floor residential work successfully, as we did at 121, is we put a fence on the property line or on the sidewalk line, and we use the 15 feet of road allowance on Earl Street as a front yard for the dwelling unit. This is exactly what the dwelling units along Earl Street do. So in our package, we have a key plan that shows that. And if you look on Earl Street, almost all the houses are very tight to the street with their porches. Between the porch and the sidewalk is lawn. That is city property, but of course, we all maintain our right-of-way, and they're usually landscaped. We're proposing exactly the same thing for this unit on Earl Street. The principle of urban design, good urban design, is to follow the street and infill it in wall to wall with buildings. That means a 0 lot line on Earl Street for our building. That's what's there across the street on Earl, at every major intersection, all through Barton Village, all down James Street. We want 0 lot line buildings. And we want buildings that are lively, and we want people housed. We're going to build a high-quality dwelling unit like we did at the Gore Lofts, and we're going to use the city road widening, or right-of-way, as the landscaping for that unit. The city requires us to build a 3-meter setback from the property line, which eliminates that unit. The other thing they asked for, the first variance, is that the floor level of our dwelling unit has to be 3 feet above the ground. This comes from a crude tool of achieving privacy for a ground floor unit. Because if you know Victorian houses, they have 6 steps up, and then the windowsill is set another 3 feet up, with an eye that the windowsill is set above standing eye level on the sidewalk for privacy. That's one method of getting privacy into a ground floor unit. As you see at the buildings on Barton Street, and I'll quote to I won't show a photo of it because I can't, but at 334 Barton Street, there's some lovely gardens on the street. That's exactly what they've done. They built a fence at the sidewalk line, and they've inhabited the rest of it as a beautiful walled garden with a tented structure. We would love to do the same thing, but we're even doing it on Earl Street, which is the side street. So the city rule doesn't make any sense. We're not trying to put residential on Barton, even though I would gladly argue if it done appropriately that will work, and maybe I'll be back before you at some point to argue that point. But on Earl Street, it makes no sense to do that. If I build the ground floor up 3 feet, I have to add 3 feet to the height of the entire building to get a proper ceiling height. That adds about $100,000 to the construction cost of one unit. That doesn't make any sense. What it also means is that there's 6 steps up to the ground floor of the unit and 6 steps back down to the ground floor to get to the garbage room, to get to the electrical room. That takes up about 60 square feet of a 400 or 500 square foot apartment, which doesn't make any sense. And it reduces accessibility for those of us with mobility impairments and children and strollers and everything else. So the city rule is, albeit crude, is not achieving the desired effect. We can achieve privacy with the fences, with landscape buffers, with appropriate design of the glass, with using frosted glass, using sheer curtains, which everyone has at the Gorlofts behind their glass. There's lots of ways to achieve privacy, so we don't need the 3-foot ground floor rise. The alternative to this development is to build one less dwelling unit and build more surface asphalt. That's completely unsustainable, and it doesn't make any sense when we're in a housing crisis. So we think we're putting forward a building that will be catalytic on Barton Street, the first new apartment building in 100 years. We're building the first new building on Barton Street of any consequence in 100 years. That's super sad. And we're doing it because we have our skin in the game. We were back to a couple of years ago with our building at 431, 435 Barton that we bought and restored. We have 2 vital commercial units in there with the Mosaic Bar and Dawson's Hot Sauce, and we rehabilitated 8 apartments above, and we won City Design Awards for it. We rehabilitated 302 James at the corner of Barton. We also won City Design Awards. We're going to win City Design Awards. Our work is published nationally and internationally. We've won more design awards from this planning department than any other architectural firm in the city. So it's really frustrating that when we express our ideas to the same planning department, they won't listen to us, and they fight us when we're trying to do a good thing that will have huge impact in the neighborhood. We have 8 letters of support from the BIA and adjacent neighbors. The third variance we're asking for is to get rid of 8 surface bicycle storage space for the public on our property. So the trade-off is, do we build a big, huge asphalt pad about 10 by 12, or do we put in landscaping? We are trying to tear up the boulevard on Earl Street, which is 15 feet wide and 150 feet of concrete that was paid for by the taxpayers and is maintained. We are paying out of our pocket to rip that up and return that to be full landscaping and to add street trees. We don't want to build asphalt pads for bicycles that won't park there. We need to, if you take the logic through that we need to provide 10 visitor parking spaces down our block will end up with 120 bicycle parking spaces for the public off the street. That doesn't make any logical sense. And if you carry that through over the course of Barton Street, it's just beyond belief. The rules don't make sense. The rules don't allow the right thing.
Okay, thank you. Laverne had a question first and then Nancy. Please.
Are there interested parties first?
Okay. Do you want to hold your question? Okay. The interested parties.
So we'll hear from Elizabeth Belizander. So if you just come forward and just make sure that your microphone is turned on when you're speaking.
There's a little button on there. Press. You're on.
Good morning. So I own the building at 641 Barton Street, which is right next to 647 Barton. And I'm not opposed at all to this new build. I think it'll be good for Barton Street. What I don't agree with is variance number 4, where it states that the interior side yard, westerly side yard of 0.0 meters shall be provided instead of the minimum interior side yard setback of 7.5 meters. I believe it will disturb the foundation of the building at 641 Barton, which is built right against it. Digging this close may cause damages to my property. I do have an example of some damages that were caused when some trees and cleaning up was done in that parking lot at 647 Barton a few months ago. The contractors that were hired to clean that parking lot damaged my fence when they cut the trees down that were close to the fence. We have had to fix that. It was not a really big deal, but it could have been worse because there's tenants that live there next to that, and they have children, so it could have been worse than that. Over time, the building can also shift. When it's built that close, it can lean into the one beside it and cause issues over time. Having that space that is allowable in between the properties will reduce noise and safety in case of a fire as well. The city bylaw allows the space to clear the debris. I have submitted pictures. I have emailed them showing all that. I do have them here. I don't know if you want to see them or you have them? Okay. Okay.
We have some.
Also, for future development, we may want to build up from our existing building, and we would need that space on the westerly side of 647 Barton of 7.5 meter minimum that is allowable. In conclusion, I just hope you take all this into consideration when making the decisions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other? Okay. Back to the agent, did you want to answer any of her concerns that are related to these variances?
Certainly. It's very nice to meet you. I did drop off a package in your mailbox last summer seeking your comment and input on the project, and I never heard back. And I talked to your husband 2 weeks ago. I'm not sure if that's this gentleman or not. I didn't think so. But I talked to your husband, and he didn't mention any concerns to me about that. Certainly, if a contractor had damaged the fence, I would definitely pay to replace it. That's just normal good neighborliness, but I was unaware of that until I received your email. What we have had is squatters on the property. The latest example is we have a city contractor, Acon, a national contractor, has been using our property as a works yard and construction staging area without our permission. So they may have been the ones that actually damaged the fence instead of the guys with the whippersnippers, but one way or another, we're trying to manage a challenging property. Our plan is not to build a basement, so we don't anticipate destabilizing your foundations. We're going to drill what are called helical piles, point piles with a concrete beam across it. It's a pretty proven technique, and we will be under the supervision of the building department, as well as the professional engineers that work with us. So I don't anticipate any impacts on your building that way. The gaps between the buildings are exactly why we want to build zero lot line and not have those gaps that just fill with garbage and are a maintenance issue. So I'm happy to chat further about ways that we can minimize the impact. There definitely will be dust and noise and vibration impacts, and we're very aware of that, and we'll work to minimize it. But what we're trying to do is look to the greater good beyond the construction period of what's appropriate for the neighborhood, and we're really, committed, and that's why the BIA are behind us, to doing something catalytic to help restart Barton Street. We need something serious to happen there. The little bits and pieces of storefront work that we've done so far have been very ineffectual. And you're struggling with the same thing. You have an empty storefront that's a dwelling unit right now that's that's not the best use. We'd love to see more commercial uses filled in, but we can't force people to rent storefronts on Barton Street. It's been 40 years so far. In 2013, we, as part of a team, recommended ways to bring back Barton Street. That report was just ignored and shelved, a complete waste of time and money. And one of our things was to get ground floor residential done well back onto Barton Street. And for me, it's particularly a no-brainer to do it on a side street.
Okay. To Laverne, you had a question?
My comment is, as I drove down Barton Street to go and have a look at 647 Barton East, I noticed that the storefronts, first of all, are right on grade. And as we've just heard from representation here, the bottom floor is commercial. not residential. The residential is around on Earl. And I see no problem with zero grade or building on grade if it's commercial on the bottom floor. Because as we've also heard, all of the storefronts along Barton Street are the same way. And so they're asking for nothing different here. The other thing I would like to add, driving along Barton Street, probably 10 years ago, the city of Hamilton decided to enhance the looks of Barton Street to try and bring some business back to this area. I don't know if it worked or didn't work, but I know a lot of the storefronts down there are boarded up. And here we have an applicant who wants to invest a lot of money into putting something there that is rather eye-appealing on Barton Street. And when I say eye-appealing, there's several buildings there and storefronts that I would say are not eye-appealing. I certainly don't have a problem with what they're trying to do here. We can find all kinds of reasons to stop these people from doing this, but that's not the motivation here. The motivation here, I believe, is to clean up Barton Street. And at the appropriate time, I will make a motion to approve this building.
Okay.
Thank you.
Nancy?
Thank you. And on top of what Laverne has said, we've seen many, many, many visits from Mr. Kernan to this committee, and everything that has come through has been absolutely amazing. Good work on your part.
Thank you.
I also have, as far as the neighbor's concerned, to have a 7.5 meter setback is actually, it's not attainable in a commercial zoned area such as many of those are. And I suspect that the original building was also very close to your building before it was demolished. So that would be putting it back to an existing position as was the original building. We've also heard from Mr. Kern many times about using spaces in the city of Hamilton to put infill properties as opposed to pushing things out into our rural, which is a huge complaint by many of the citizens and farmers in our area. So I have no concerns whatsoever. Some of your supporters have been also some of the, what shall I say, offering more challenging things to us, and I'm speaking of Mr. Furlan, which has been, and if he's supporting, then that's amazing for you as well as Salar from My Pie.
Thank you.
So I will support it as well.
Thank you.
Margaret?
Yes, I actually had a couple of questions. This has received conditional site plan approval, I understand?
Yes.
When it got site plan approval, was the residential unit still proposed for the ground floor?
The residential unit and the design in total has not changed one spot from the moment of pre-consultation last July.
Okay, so also I notice on the site plan that you do show the fence around an area in front of the residential unit?
Yes, we show a fenced patio for the residential, and we show a fenced patio for the bar. We want to put in a small bar that will be a social place. We don't want an overly big commercial unit because we don't think it's viable to get a restaurant or something in this location. We're trying to build the residential. We think that's more important for the community. And we want to have the fenced yards for basic security and privacy for both the patio, restaurant patio and for the residential patio. If we don't have the fenced yard, we don't think we'll be able to sell the residential.
Have you spoken to city staff about like an encroachment?
We know that an encroachment agreement is required. If you can believe it, we have to get an encroachment agreement to put plants in the right of way instead of concrete.
So, okay, so you'll be getting an encroachment agreement?
We'll be getting an encroachment agreement for the fence and the planting.
Sort of in favor of the, is this going to be rental or is it going to be condo?
I don't know yet. I'm hoping that it will be rental at this time, but we may register it as a condo just to have the flexibility.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I will accept your motion, Laverne.
Can I clarify?
Oh, Karen?
is that motion as amended per zoning with the additional variance, sorry, not condition, additional variance for the patio in the right-of-way? Or the portion of the patio that is on the private property?
Yes, please, we want the patio. There was some debate in the zoning section about whether it was required or not, but it's in our original application. We thought it was required and it went back and forth, but yes, we need a variance to put in the patio for the restaurant as well.
My motion does include that.
Okay.
Okay, seconded by Nancy. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion carried, application approved.
Thank you so much.
And I must say, I'm glad to see the development within the city limits rather than using up Greenbelt.
In all honesty, the planning department should be forcing us to build 6 stories. That, instead of telling us a 3-story building is over
The infrastructure is here, and why not build where it is instead of
Absolutely.
creating a new one? Anyway.
Absolutely. This is a principal intensification. I'd like to just say one more thing before I go. I wanted to plug the SDU applications that are coming. They have my unconditional support for SDUs. We need more. And the second thing I wanted to say was I presume this will be the last time I'll be appearing before this group. And I wanted to say thank you for your steadfast and always fabulous, thoughtful decision-making these past 4 years. So thank you all, and hopefully we'll see a few of you at least again with the next committee. Thank you.
We enjoy your professionalism.
Thank you.
Sorry, I apologize. I missed, there was a condition requested by Transportation Planning. Was that condition as part of your approval as well?
I hope not. That's reversing one of the variances we requested.
I didn't hear that.
There was a condition that was requested from Transportation Planning. It was to provide a minimum of 4 on-site short-term bicycle parking spaces.
We specifically requested that a variance to that requirement.
Okay, so that
Is that to be removed?
that was requested. I just wanted to clarify that that was not added with your motion. No, okay, that's what I thought. Thank you.
There you go. Thank you so much.
All right, so we're all set for the next file. We're hearing HMA 2394 for 57 Vansmart Avenue in Hamilton. We have the agent registered to speak and 1 interested party.
Is the agent available?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Yes, Stephen Fraser, AJ Clark and Associates.
Yes. Did you have a chance to read the comments that were posted?
I did, Mr. Chairman, and fully support Development Planning's recommendation for approval. I would like to just take a moment to address some of the comments that were contained within that package, if I could. My client, with respect to Development Engineering's comments on the minimum swale grade, my client has spoken with their engineer, and that 1.5% minimum swale grade with subdrain can be achieved in the 0.9 meter side yard setback. So we're able to address Development Engineering's comments with respect to that. And then just if I could provide a bit of history as to why we're here. My client purchased 57 Vansit Mart actually from the adjacent neighbor at 55 Vansit Mart. And at the time of the purchase of that property, it was not disclosed that the house on 55 Vansit Mart was in fact encroaching onto the lot of record that our client purchased at 57 Vansit Mart. And so that encroachment is about 18 to 20 inches onto our client's property at the easterly property line of 55. And what our client had to do as a result of that encroachment was enter into what's called a limiting distance agreement with the city of Hamilton to enable our client to construct a home on 57 Vansit Mart that was in compliance with the Ontario Building Code. And that limiting distance agreement requires a 1.2 meter separation between the existing house at 55 Vansit Mart and the westerly face of our clients at 57 Vansit Mart. And so further to that actual spatial distance, there's requirements with respect to the type of materials and openings, et cetera, that are allowed within the new construction of 57 Vansit Mart. And so by virtue of this lot of record being, small, 7.62 meters in width, it renders a challenge to construct a house and site a house on 57 Vansit Mart, which again is a lot of record. So we're before you today to request permission to allow that 0.9 meter side yard on the easterly side yard that can sustain the adequate swale in accordance with the lot grading policy. And obviously acknowledge the existing size of the lot, as well as request a few variances with respect to the front driveway access and the number of parking spaces. So I hope that provides a bit of history as to why we're here. I'm happy to answer any questions that the committee or members of the public may have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Move for approval.
Sorry, we do have one interested
We
party.
have one citizen.
So if the, I believe, sorry. Sheila Morrison, if you could come forward and then just make sure that your microphone is turned on when you're speaking.
Hi, I've never been to a meeting before ever in my life. How did I do this?
If you're
Is it
on.
Is it?
Okay.
You need to bear with me because I've never been to City Hall. It's my first time ever in my life. Good morning, councillors. Thank you so much for letting me speak at your meeting. I very much appreciate it. I have lived in my house for 35 years and had wonderful neighbours over the years. I built a fence over 15 years ago and asked my neighbours if I could put a gate in for my auntie, as she's in a wheelchair and she comes to visit in the summertime because it's a lot warmer and we could sit outside and stuff, right? So we have access to the backyard. As I said, she only comes during the warmer weather. The gentleman wants to build the house. He's not building for affordable housing. He told me the house is already sold before it's even built. He's not going to be living in the house. It's just for profit. I need the pathway to be built to code, and the reason for that is so that I can get the wheelchair down it. I can't get it down my other side or whatever. My house is nearly 100 years old, right? And only reason for this is if I ever need to do any maintenance to the side of my house, the allotted space is not adequate enough, and God forbid there's a fire in that house that's been built, my house would catch fire because they're so close together, you know. And when they start digging the side of my house, is it going to pay for any damages? As I said, my house is nearly 100 years old. I've never had any leaks in my basement, it's finished, and I've never had any water damage in all the years because we've taken care of the property. I'm certainly not against the gentleman wanting to build a house. I'm definitely not against anybody building houses. But when I called to ask what a variance is, because I don't know what a variance is, because I saw the sign on the lot in the house next door to me, right? And I asked him, what is a variance or whatever? And he told me not to worry about it, it's only minor, right? And I said, okay then, fine or whatever, right? So I didn't know, that's why I called the city or whatever. I said, but all I had to do was tell me the truth, that I'm going to take the pathway and I'm going to make it a bit smaller at your side or whatever. And that I would explain to him that I've got an auntie and the reason why I need that pathway kind of built to code so that I can bring her down that side to put her in the gate or whatever, right? But he lied to me, and instead of letting me know what he was planning to give me, like a small path, right? It's not adequate for anything even to go down there, the path that he's talking about building. He's going to build a 2-storey house. Now, I get the sun in my backyard. Once that house is built, no more sun. I can sit out there and it's just going to be black, you know what I mean? I've lived there since I came to Canada, I've lived there all my life in that house. And I bought it, as I said, over 35 years ago. You know, well, I came to Canada over 35 years ago. I hope you're understanding me okay, because I'm really, really nervous. I just feel like people don't care anymore, you know what I mean? They build the houses and it's like they don't bother about the people that actually live there, And like, you know, I'm not got a problem with them building the houses, but please consider the people that live next door to you or beside you or whatever, you know, like, I just want it built to code. That's all I'm really asking, if that would be okay. I really thank you for your time. Sorry I'm getting emotional, but I've never been in one of these before and I'm really nervous, you know.
That's okay, that's the first time we've seen you.
I've never, I honest to God, dear, I wouldn't be down here if I wasn't concerned about like them building the house. Like, you know, I asked this gentleman if he would help me. They took down the garage, the big garage. The other owner took down the big garage. They told me they had a permit, but here they didn't have a permit. He damaged the fence that was already there. They damaged my window, and when I tried to call her on one night, oh, I never did it, I never did. Yeah, you did do it, you know what I mean? Like, you know, are they going to fix the damages if they cause it? Like, or do you have to go and find a lawyer to go to court? And I don't want to go through all that, honey. You know, I'm a pensioner, right? You know, I don't want to have all that stress and, you know, like, yeah, he's going to be building, that's fine. You know what I mean? I've not got a problem with that. I just have a problem. Are they going to honour, well, if there's any leaks getting into my basement? Because I don't know what's under there, because that house, as I said, is nearly 100 years old. You know what I mean? So I don't really know. It's at the side of the house. The driveway is right. Their driveway next door is right at the side of my house. You know what I mean?
Yep, so maybe the agent can answer some of the questions that you have. Stephen?
Yeah, through the chair, I can certainly try. I can't speak to any sort of, damaging to the existing house. You haven't constructed any, or the client hasn't constructed anything on the site yet, so I can't speak to whether or not there's any correlation with respect to the damage of Sheila's house with respect to the variance that we're here for. In addition to the access to the backyard, I mean, unfortunately, I do certainly sympathize and empathize with any wheelchair access, but the existing side yard of the house at 59 Vansit Mart is unable to facilitate access to the backyard. It's about 0.2 of a meter is my understanding. And getting access to the backyard currently is a trespassing situation, effectively, without an easement being in favor of that owner at 59. So I do certainly empathize, but there's nothing in this application that's entitling anybody to trespass on somebody's property to get access to their backyard. That's not why we're here. And I'm sorry that there's an emotional attachment to this application. I do empathize for that, but this is good planning. This is an existing lot of record. We've got a situation where a house is encroaching onto the lot, and we're simply here to facilitate the construction of the house. So,
Sorry, it is the agent's opportunity to speak at the moment.
yeah, those are my submissions and responses. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, to the committee, questions? Laverne?
As we just heard from Mr. Fraser, there is nothing in this application that allows anybody else to trespass on a property. And also, the setbacks are all required right here. And before anything can happen, before any home is built on that property, a building permit will be required. And the planning department have already given their comments here. And before a permit is granted, it's also reviewed. So we're left with none other than to make a decision on what's exactly in front of us here. And I make a motion to approve.
I second.
Sorry, just for clarity, was that motion as amended for the applicant with the minor changes to the dimensions with regards to, I believe it was rounding errors or allowances?
Yes, with the minor changes.
Thank you.
Seconded.
Okay, motion made by Laverne, seconded by Mark. All in favor? Opposed?
Seeing none?
Motion carried, application approved.
I'm sorry, can I ask
Thank you.
a question here? Does that mean that he gets that variance? Then is that what you're meaning? Because I don't
Yes.
know, I've never been as I said, a meeting or whatever, right? And I don't really understand it or whatever, right?
Yeah, so
But
the
what I'm
variances
saying
that
is,
were
if there is
requested
a
were
fire
approved.
in my house and I have to get out that side window, I'm not going to have enough room. I'm not going to be able
So
to do
fire
any maintenance.
issues are dealt with through the fire department, and there are fire allowances that are under the building code that are dealt with during the building code, or building permit process.
Okay, all right. This
Okay,
is a
hearing's
waste of
adjourned.
time, but I knew we'd get it. Okay. You're quite close to that date.
All right, and we're all set for the next file. We're hearing HMA 22294 for 735 Beach Boulevard in Hamilton. We have the agent registered to speak and one interested party.
Okay, is the agent available?
Yep.
Did you have a chance to read the comments that were posted?
Yes.
And do you have any questions?
Just a second. Where did you send the comments? It's actually what happened. The original lady that she was representing from our company, she moved on, and we take over her. You know, got a new people that took over this project, so not too much familiar with that. But I know it's about a zero long line on a rear yard. So has anybody got an objection on that, or?
We could hear from the interested parties, and then we'll ask the committee if they have any questions.
Okay, so we had one interested party registered. It was Jennifer Kowalski. If you're on the call, please make yourself known.
Hi. I looked over the comments and the proposed.
Comments, where's the comments? Guys, even an email
We're
comment.
up and down that
You didn't prepare anything.
so it's very exposed. It looks like the changes are already in place. No, I'm just confused as to what exactly is going on. As well, like the half story seems to have been built. The deck seems to come to the lot line already. I'm just wondering what the change is as well. And then it doesn't sound like a good idea to build closer to the water. It looks like just the deck is going to the lot line. But if the minor variance is approved, then what prevents the next application from being like building, like actually extending the house to the lot line? I'm just wondering what the process is for that.
So if further variances are required, an additional minor variance application would be required to be submitted.
Yeah, but if this minor variance allows the setback to be 0, then the next application would automatically allow the building to go to the back, right?
Only the variances that are on the notice of public hearing are before the committee today. Future variances are not before the committee.
Right, the variance is to allow 0 setback.
For this.
That would not prevent building to the lot line.
Each case is heard on its own, and the merits of each case is looked at individually. There's no binding precedent by giving it on this one that will apply to all others in the future.
So this minor variance specifically is for the deck.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so my question is everything in place already, or is there an actual change? Looks like the story is already there. It looks like the deck is already at the.
Can I talk?
Okay, are those all of your comments and questions?
Pretty much, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Committee have a question? Margaret, first.
I also am confused as to what this application is. The application itself says it's for construction of 1.5-story addition. on the existing single-family dwelling. However, the drawings do not show a 1.5-story addition on the dwelling. It shows a deck. However, when you go out on site, there is what is obviously new construction on the back, but also a 1-story addition that looks like it's temporary, even though it has doors and windows. That does not show up on the drawings either. So what exactly is it that we are approving to the applicant?
Can I jump in for a second? I just want to say that was the original cottage. The gentleman started renovation. And then he applied for the second story. He built his deck without a permit. It's been caught. He enclosed it, so now he demolished that enclosure, so it's a deck, so it's not any more addition. And he built it on a law line. So he asked us to apply for the minor variances and to go not to demolishing this deck. What I want to point it out, this is only one cottage and it's that close really to the water. So if anybody else looking where the other buildings are and building new buildings, none of them are that close to actually, there's no water that close. There's a grass and there's a city pathway between them, and then there's a beach. So it's not sitting right on the water at all.
That addition that is on the back, the 1-story addition, it's about half the width of the house. That was still there yesterday. So is that going to be torn down?
The addition?
Yes.
I'm not sure about that. That's an owner decision, you know. It's your decision. If you allow the deck and you want to keep it as a deck, I'm okay with that. We're going to force him to demolish his addition. Just keep it as a deck and approve the minor variances for the deck, because it's so close. That's an original cottage that it's been built long time ago. So, you know, if he demolished this building, he would never be able to build that close. Yeah, I'm with you guys on the board. If you don't like, you know, to be addition, it has to be only deck. I'm on the board with you for removing the addition and just keeping a deck.
So you're the agent for the
Correct.
applicant?
Correct.
Okay. So have you actually seen the back of this house?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So
I
you know,
surveyed that and everything, so.
so you know what I'm talking about? That.
Yes, correct. I know exactly what you're talking about.
So that is, you want that to stay?
Well, I wanted the deck stay if you're okay with the 0 variances for the deck, but if you're not happy with the look of addition, I'm okay with that, taking the addition down, and it's gonna be whole thing deck.
Isn't that what the drawing shows?
The drawing shows the addition and shows the deck.
No, I don't think so.
Nancy?
It appears to me there's some changes that are being made that maybe need to have a little more review, and it might be wise in this particular case to table it and come back with exactly what you're looking for.
Perfect.
I'll make a motion for
Table?
table.
Okay, motion made by Nancy to table, seconded by Mel. All in favor of table?
Yep.
Opposed?
Seeing none?
Seeing none, motion carried, application tabled.
Thank you.
For the interest of the interested party, the application was not decided upon today. Further notice will be provided in the future when the item is brought back to the committee.
Thank you.
All right, we're all set for the next file. We're hearing HMA 2306 for 49 Greenford Drive in Hamilton. We have the agent registered to speak and no other interested parties.
Is the agent available?
Yes, good morning, Chairman and committee members. I'm here.
Yes, did you have a chance to read the comments that were posted?
Yes, I've been gone through and comments look okay, and we are accepting those comments. Good to go.
Okay, committee? Nancy?
Thank you for getting this sorted out. I know we tabled it a few weeks ago, so with these changes, I'll make a motion for approval.
Okay, motion made by Nancy, seconded by Bob. All in favor? Opposed?
Seeing none?
Motion carried, application approved.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Okay, we're all set for the next file. We're hearing HMA 2390 for 130 Clarendon Avenue in Hamilton. We have the agent registered to speak and no other interested parties.
Is the agent available?
I am. It's Pete from Parkgate. We've read the comments and we're in agreement.
Do you have any questions?
No.
Committee? Margaret?
A motion for approval?
Moved by Margaret, seconded by Laverne. All in favor? Opposed?
Seeing none?
Motion carried, application approved.
Thank you.
And we did have a break scheduled today. I believe the next agent for the file is the previous agent as well. Did you want to proceed with the next item, or did you wish to have a break?
Quick break.
Quick break?
A quick break, okay.
Smoke break.
Did you want 5 minutes?
Is 5 minutes enough?
Okay.
Okay.
We'll recess until 10:26, or 10:31 then? 10:30? All right, so we'll recess until 10:30 and we'll hear the next item at 10:30.
Okay, order.
Did you want to do roll call, or do you want me to just note who's not currently present?
No, we're good.
Okay. All right, so we are all set for the next file. So we're hearing HMA 2389 for 339 Thayer Avenue in Hamilton. We have the agent registered to speak and no interested parties.
Okay, is the agent available?
Hi, it's me again. It's Pete from Park 8. We have read the comments. I'd love to share my screen for a brief moment to show an iMapper and discuss some of response to some of those comments.
Okay. Was there any interested parties? No, okay. Did you have questions on some of the comments?
He wanted to share his screen.
Oh, okay, sorry, go ahead.
No problem. I just wanted to make sure everybody, so can you see the iMapper now?
No, we can't. Oh, there we go.
Okay. We've got a rare occurrence where you could see our existing properties wrapped in this purple line, and subject properties 1 street over, same zone, that have been granted to build essentially what we're proposing. So this subject property is 339. They have a garden shed in the back for some storage of tools, some basic maintenance type thing. And their request is to build an accessory building toward this side corner closer to the fence. So 1 street over, same zone, similar lot sizes exactly. And we see conditions, note the vehicles here. But large parking, like large accessory building on the smaller lot. And our client's spot is also one of the smaller lots. To speak to the comments, I'll speak to the ones that are challenged. And my questions, I suppose, are, we tend to think of a vehicle as an automobile all the time, and that's not always the case. And the 3 comments, like 2 to 4, specifically are related to required vehicle parking. This is this property, this dwelling is a smaller house. I really don't see, based on the ratio from zoning, 2 parking spaces per 8 habitable rooms. I really don't see us exceeding that number. They have 2 parking spaces, which has been there since the first iMapper underlay I can find. And so really this accessory building will perform the same function as the tired building that's there now. And I'm sort of scratching my head in terms of what's giving us so much of a challenge on it. And there may be a few items which I'll run over here. Required parking. Well, the client's request really is they want to reduce the amount of paving. As an avid gardener, as one of the clients, raised beds is a concern, and a young family, they'd like to have some space that they can garden in their backyard and use the green space. I'm not proposing, and we're not proposing, to pave the entire backyard, which is sort of the, some of the comments relate to 6 meters back. Well, we're well into halfway through a lot before you can even build an accessory building, which is in the exact same location. So the clients have sort of 2 requests. Their most ideal is the first, and their ask is for some sort of compromise on that flankage setback. Their hope is for 6 to 8 feet, which seems to be the exact same as what's been offered here. I did note in terms of sightline points from transportation, these folks, I believe, have an angled fence, and I don't think this client would be opposed to that. That being said, like the garage door and us labeling a garage maybe was should have held that back. We should have called it accessory building because they have 2 parking spaces and they're not proposing to park a vehicle inside or out. They'd like to keep a garage door on the side, but if that's really tripping us up for all of these, I doubt it's worthwhile. But that's their least favorite direction. They would prefer that we are in the closer back corner, have more green space to the backyard, and have access. I'll stop my screen share here.
Okay. To the committee. Nancy.
To the applicant,
from East 13th Street, is there going to be a paved access to that garage door? Like you're saying to reserve green space, but I just wondered if they kept the overhead door, how would one gain access to that building?
Understood. If we were to put it on that side, then yes, that would be a requirement from the bylaw, and we can follow that. It makes me wonder for, say, an accessory building where you have a garage door toward facing the house, for example. It seems like we're always assuming the garage door is for parking a car, not bicycles or tool storage or. So if like I said, if that's something that's tripping it up excessively, I would think they would take it off and remove it. But the intent and their preference would be to pave the front, accessing that garage door. As per the bylaw, they'd like to maintain visual continuity to the street, which may mean angling that one fence on that side, which I think is totally fair.
Okay, so the answer is yes, you would have to pave through the green space.
Correct, yes.
If it was
Could
going
be
to be used
far
for a
less
vehicle.
That would be far less than paving 6 meters into the lot.
I do see that transportation planning, I mean, they want to revise site plan to try and push the garage as much east as possible. Any other questions? Margaret?
Yes, I think that you're saying that the owner has no intention of putting a car in that garage. However, they may not be the owner in perpetuity. So if you have a garage with a garage door facing the road, somebody is going to park a car in there and they're going to try and back the car out, and it's an unsafe situation. So I'm not in favor of it as it sits at the moment. Did you want to table it to have another discussion with transportation to see if you can resolve that?
Just to be clear, so that would mean no angled fence, right? And a increased flankage space.
Or no door.
Or no door.
Or no door. If I suppose I'd love to hear everybody's opinion from the committee. If your position is that no garage door, based on transportation's comments, I think the client would probably table it. We're fine with reaching out to transportation. I'm just saying I'm not sure if they will be satisfied. Like 6 meters is more than half of this lot, so that's a lot of pavement.
I think it probably would be worth your while to table it.
Okay. Then we'll do that.
So
Is that a motion?
motion for table.
Motion made by Margaret, seconded by Mel. All in favor? Opposed?
Seeing none?
Seeing none, motion carried, application tabled.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, we're all set for the next file. We're hearing HMB 2322 for 311 Rymel Road East in Hamilton. We have the applicant and agent registered to speak, and no other interested parties.
Okay, is the agent available?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I am.
Yes, did you have a chance to read the comments that were posted?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I did, and happy with most of them. There's just a few we'll question.
If you could speak a little closer to the mic. Does committee have any questions?
Yeah, sir, is it your intention to ultimately table this, or do you want it to proceed to a decision today? Because we don't like to do an application and then get a request for a tabling at the end of it.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to proceed. The request for tabling is somewhat puzzling. My client advised me that the planner working on the zoning file suggested that he apply for the consent because they're close to, I guess, writing the staff report on the zoning. So it came as a bit of a surprise to see that they're recommending tabling, although they do have there is a condition that we finalize the zoning bylaw amendment application prior to the consent being finalized. So it's a little confusing. I prefer to proceed to get the application approved today. But there's just a couple of conditions that were, again, a little perplexed with. In terms of number 7, the stormwater management brief, that was submitted as part of the zoning application. So that's being reviewed currently. And the other condition is 10, it's the noise study. When you look at the rear yards for these proposed semi-detached lots, they're like 29 meters back from Rimo Road. And there's houses closer, and it's just a little concerning that we would have to do a noise study to check the rear yards, amenity areas for those semis that are so far back. And in addition, conditions 11 and 12 seem to be repetitive and similar to condition 9. So, I mean, they're there, but I don't know why there's so many that have to relate to zoning when we have a zoning bylaw amendment application in process. That's all I have right now. I don't know if my client is online somewhere.
Well, we do look at all the recommendations that come in front of us from planning, and I mean, their recommendation, because the zoning bylaw amendment application is under review, you know, the recommendation is tabling.
Again, Mr. Chair, my client advised me that the planner working on the zoning file suggested he apply for the consent because it's getting close to the staff report and recommendation. So, I mean, the condition is there that we have to finalize the zoning as well, so.
Exactly. If we approve it, it's subject to zoning anyways.
Margaret?
Yeah, you did partially answer my question. How far along is the zoning application? You said that they're going to be doing a staff report. Has there been a public meeting or anything like that?
To you, Mr. Chair, again, I don't know my client's part of the call here, but he advised that they're getting close, whether it's June, July, that the staff report will be going for a public meeting and formal.
Then I better wait.
Yeah, you seem to be cutting in now, but I think that I would be more comfortable to wait until at least the staff report has been done. So perhaps you might want to table for a month until staff has completed their review and done the staff report.
Is that a motion, Margaret, or just a suggestion?
It's a suggestion to the applicant.
I think the applicant has already stated that they want a decision today. So if the committee wishes to table the application, that's at their purview.
Suggesting tabling.
Any other questions from the committee?
I have a question. What's that?
Thomas?
I mean, theoretically, yeah, it's on.
It's not red.
Oh. That does.
You're good.
Theoretically, if this gets approved, you could end up with 4 lots that you can't build on if the zoning doesn't come through. That doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. I mean, I suppose there's a certain amount of optimism on the part of the applicant that it's going to be approved, but that's never a sure thing. I think we've done this before, and I've always been against it, so I'm still against it. It doesn't make any sense to approve a subdivision of property that ultimately may not be built on.
Bob?
I move that we table the application.
Okay. We have a motion to table, seconded by Nancy. All in favor of table? Opposed?
Seeing none?
Motion carried, application tabled.
Okay, so the application was tabled for the agent. When you would like the item brought back to the committee, you can make a request through cofA@hamilton.ca.
Okay, thank you.
Great, we're all set for the next file. So we're hearing ANA 2396 for 1194 Scenic Drive in Ancaster. We have the owners registered to speak and several interested parties.
Okay, is the owner available?
Yes.
So come forward to the table and make sure your microphone is turned on when it's your turn to speak.
Did you have a chance to read the comments that were posted?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, once I got the notice of public hearing, I saw the 3 comments from the city. So I went and talked to the staff, Liam Tapp. And then after I discussed with them, I put a quick presentation together, 5 pages. So I'd like to take you through that.
Okay.
Did you provide the presentation in advance?
This one, it's in your comments. It's in the...
Okay, interested parties? Okay.
Okay, do you have that? Okay. All right, so the first page, you can see there's 3 classrooms. Right? The first comment from the city was regarding you can only have 3 classrooms, not 4 like I asked for. So I think we can do all we want to do within the 3 classrooms. So if you look at the top left, the total capacity for that room is 14. Currently, we're only licensed for 10 because of the limit of the zoning for 36. So that room is open to easily accommodate 4 more children. The top right, current capacity is 9. We only license for 5 there, so there's 4 spots right there. And then the other room at the bottom, total capacity is 24. We're licensed for 21. So there's 3. So just looking at the 3, what we are licensed and what the capacity is, there's room for 11 more kids. That takes us to 47. Next page. On page 2, if you look at the bottom room, maximum capacity 32, but based on the available space there of 107 square meters, if you divide that by 2.8, which is the requirement per child, it gives us really room for 38, but based on children to staff ratio, we talked to the CCLS, that's the Child Care License Services. They're okay with us doing 32, so that capacity can go to 32. So that would give us a maximum of 55 based on the 2 pages. And that's why we're asking for 55. So this way we're not going to be going to 4 classroom. There's a little highlighted area you'll see. It says activity area. It could accommodate 9, but we don't need to go there. We can still leave that as a activity area, especially on days when it's raining and weather's bad. So that addresses our first note that the city had. The second one regarding parking. On page 3, you'll see there was a ramp. To me, it was when the guy engineer designed it, he didn't do it right. He should have been pointing the different way, which I'll show you on the next page. And at the bottom, you'll see in the garage, we had an open space, which we didn't take into account when we did the original site plan. So I figured the R12 residence, I can move that into the open space, which you'll see in the next page, on page 4. And that still stays within the guidelines that were in the zoning, how many cars you can have past the front yard and behind. So I talked to Liam, and he was okay with the garage one. And the concern with the DC-14, as you can see on the drawing, where the ramp is changed, it makes it easier for cars to get in and out. There's like a 6 by 6 meter, or 6 feet by 6 feet area we got to pave, which is not going to increase the 35% maximum that space that you can use for parking. So we're well within the guidelines there. And that's why I think Liam sent a letter to you after I talked to him, and I highlighted 2 sections in there. So he said once we do the 2 parking spots, the total proposed parking space count is 15 parking spaces, which exceeds the minimum required amount of 6 parking spaces that we need. So I'm more than double parking spaces to account for what we need to do with 3 classrooms. And the third comment in the notice was regarding the barrier-free parking, and he did say, I did talk to him, that there's no requirement, so I'm not going to make any changes to that. The space will be there. I just keep things simple, I'm just going to withdraw that. So yeah, that's all the comments I had to address the three issues that were brought up by the city staff.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I'll call the interested parties. So we have Palomina Filipovic first.
Pamina's just here to support. We're just going to have Michelle.
Sorry, so you all registered to speak, so you don't want to speak?
I think they're all in support.
No, it's Michelle.
Okay. So then whoever wants to speak can come forward.
I'm a resident in the area. I've been there for 4 years and don't see any issues to having more kids. They do good work. They're a good center, and there's never been any increased traffic issues, never any increased parking issues. They seem to all be contained within their building and parking area, and I'm in full support of the additional children. I think it's good for the community, and with childcare being hard to find, it's not a bad thing to have more spaces available for parents.
Okay, thank you. Motion, I don't think there's too many questions. Motion, Laverne. Sorry.
Do I get a chance to talk? I'm online, so.
Yeah, so we did have other interested parties. So we have Joseph Marcy.
Oh, sorry.
Or Marcree, sorry.
Macri, yeah. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. Yeah, unfortunately, that hasn't been my experience. I live right next to it, and I'm all for, improvements needed in daycare and so forth. But I do see a lot of traffic there, and I have seen incidents, and it has been my experience. Like I said, that that's unfortunately where that entrance is, and no matter what changes they make, it's a prime area for people traveling. And like I said, I live right next to it. And I have seen close calls, and my fear is that there will be increased traffic. And, I don't know what the assessment has said, but, I see it. So I'm just saying that, I understand the need for increased availability, and it's not about that. I think you have to think long and hard about the safety issues of increasing the number of children there just because of increased risk.
Thank you. Anyone else? Nancy? Any comments, questions from the committee? No?
Comment, I guess I was concerned whether the daycare licensing authorities had approved it, since it is and they have, so that makes me feel a lot more comfortable. And in terms of comments from the neighbor, I guess I see it as not much different than a school bus stopping across from a residence where there's 30, 40 parents waiting to pick up or drop off kids, where the school buses are too. So I am in full support of this.
Laverne?
I can only echo what my colleague just said. I think we've had a very thorough explanation of why we should increase this to 55 students. And I looked through my package. I see several letters of approval from people who've had children going to this school. And so I would like to make a motion to approve.
Okay. Motion made by Laverne, seconded by Nancy. All in favor? Opposed?
Seeing none?
Seeing none, motion carried, application approved. I'm just wondering, like in daycare and nursery areas, should they be putting up signage, when they school zones and, it's reduced speed limits? I'm wondering, in areas where there are nurseries, does there need to be special signage, or do they put up a, school zone so that,
The speed limit, I believe, is 50 in that corner. There's a corner a little bit further down, and I think it's less there. But yeah, it would be a good idea, and especially if you look at that, there's a daycare pathways on Mohawk Road. To me, that is 100 times more dangerous because every time I'm coming, people are making a left turn on a double yellow line, and I always have to pay attention to stay in the right lane to go. We don't have that issue here. You put the signal and people see it easily. Yeah, yeah.
Maybe something to
talk
put forward to a counselor in your area or something.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. This one.
All right, we're all set for the next files. We're hearing SCB 2313 and SCA 2356 for 12 Shadow Dale Drive in Stony Creek. We have the owners registered to speak and several interested parties.
See if they're going to table it first.
Is the owner available? Did you have a chance to read the comments that were posted?
Yes, we did, yes.
Okay. With what the recommendations are, would you consider tabling or?
So I'm a little confused. I mean, originally we were trying to figure out what to do with this back of this property because it's such a big property and it's not utilized to its potential. So we originally approached the city not that long ago to place a secondary home on it, which doesn't require a severance. But however, in speaking with the planning department, they encouraged us to go forward with a severance, right? So we did that. We also spoke to Jeff, our ward councilman, who also mentioned a single family home would be a better option for that area instead of selling it to a developer to possibly put up condos or something of that nature. So we also thought the same thing, a single family home would be a better option. During the application process, we discussed putting a minor variance, which was that first application, which was 0.31 meters of a side yard instead of the minimum 1 meter. Just before the meeting then, there was some comments back and forth, so then we spoke to Tim Voorman, the senior planner in the Planning Economic Department, and we elected to remove that variance to change it to an access easement, which provides legal means to the site, to the back of the property. We're hoping this to be a better solution. So I'm kind of a little confused right now to say, to table it again, because we keep going back and forth, right?
Yeah, and I can only make a recommendation that may, what's in front of us, we're recommending denial, and we don't want to turn down anything if we can help it, and
Right.
and maybe a recommendation would be to table it and try and get favorable comments from planning and instead of.
But even in speaking with Tim, he'd indicated that what did he say? It's their policies or procedures, but he said it was a soft no, which means that because they have to deny it because it's their procedure, their policies. So I'm confused and we're learning the process, but I'm not sure where else to go with this at this point, because do we then just put a secondary building on it, or would that be a better option, or do we just?
I don't know whether we can make that call.
No, I
here
know,
today,
yeah.
And that's why I'm kind of recommending maybe to table it and see if you can come up with some different ideas or whatever. I mean, the planning department is black and white.
Yeah.
And they have to follow policy, and we've seen it before come in front of us, and that's why we're here. If there's a gray area, we can recommend approval, even though planning is recommending denial, because they have to follow policy.
Right.
So, I mean, that's my only recommendation here. Mel?
With what we've seen in front of us before, and there's still a lot of things that we don't can't understand. I would recommend we table it, and I'd make that motion to table it.
Yeah.
It's on.
It doesn't light up.
Oh, I see. Yes, it's on here. There's an absolute policy that a residential lot must have frontage.
Right.
So that's the first big hurdle that you've got to go by. A secondary dwelling unit doesn't necessarily require that. So
Right.
that's a consideration, I suppose, as to what you can do with the property. It's a strange piece of property, I think.
It is, yeah.
And I would have hesitation, quite frankly, recommend voting in favor of a secondary dwelling. There's not enough, I guess that doesn't leave you enough, if in fact you don't have an easement, that you include in the severance a laneway in effect.
No, that's what this is. We had suggested putting in an
Well,
easement,
but it's an easement, not ownership.
right?
If ownership of a way in to the rear of the property can be done and still leave you enough property,
Like a shared
Then-
ownership, like a,
well,
I don't know, it could be easement on title or
that's
something. I don't-
just,
you know,
that's just
the-
as bad as an easement, I think. All I'm saying is if the people, whoever bought the rear part of the property had ownership of the access, maybe that would make a difference to the planners, and it would give you frontage. It would give frontage to that property. But
Sorry.
an easement is not frontage.
Our last time we came here and we tabled it, we actually had,
That
let's
on
say,
there.
a flagship lot, and we were asking for a minor variance for the existing house to be 0.31 instead of 1 meter, right? And the city had, one of the planning's recommendation was to take 2 feet off of the existing house, which would be very expensive. And so that's why we, according to the planning, we rerouted and came this way. But what you're telling me
is to go back the other
is to go back the other way.
All I'm doing is making a suggestion. If it's
Yeah.
already been run by planning and there's a problem with it, then forget the suggestion.
Well, the thing is, the planning doesn't like the idea of a flagship lot. And if we actually have a neighbor across the road that's a flagship lot, which if you look, say you take the severance application, I think the last page is like an overview of the neighborhood, right? We're at 12. If you look at right across at 17 Shadowdale, that's a flagship lot.
Well, it may depend on the size of the flag.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, what can you, I mean, their policy is they don't support flagship lots, but they do the exceptions, and what we're kind of in front of you folks today is to kind of look at that and go, what else can you do?
Well, your difficulty is the size of the flag is the same size as the flagpole.
Yeah.
And that's what makes this lot a problem.
No, but the thing is though, the pole, let's say, is wide enough to accommodate for emergency vehicles, for this driveway to go in. It's not uncommon. You go to Ancaster, Burlington, you see this all the time, where houses are in front of other houses.
Well, I think we're getting into too much of a discussion. If there's going to be a motion to table. But it may be hard as it may be so to swallow that this lot is just not developable. And the secondary dwelling is the only option.
Right.
So,
Mel?
Mr. Chair, we do have a motion on the floor.
Yeah. There's a motion on the floor to table by Mel. Is there a seconder?
So.
Margaret? All in favor?
Can we just?
Can I have a question?
Just a minute. Opposed?
Seeing none?
Seeing none. Motion is carried, application is tabled.
Okay, since I got.
One question.
Okay, one question. The secondary dwellings, so I can table and come back in as a secondary dwelling, right? With my,
We can't say yes or no, we can't make that recommendation because we could be stepping on planning's toes here, so.
okay.
No, I think the question is, do they have to bring a new application or can they
Yeah.
amend this one?
So
to deal with?
you can amend your minor variance application if it's for a secondary dwelling unit as defined in the zoning bylaw.
Okay, so we can do that.
that.
Right.
Okay, you can amend it.
Well, thank you very much, people, and I guess we'll see you again.
Okay.
Thank you.
For the interest of the interested parties, no decision was made on this file. It will be rescheduled for a later date, and notice will be provided when the new hearing date is set. All right, we're all set for the next file. We're hearing ANA 2387 for 114 Chambers Court in Ancaster. We have the owners registered to speak and no interested parties.
Okay, is the owner available?
Is the owner for 114 Chambers Court in Ancaster here? If you are here, please make yourself known.
He's there.
No, he just doesn't have volume.
He's going to call in, I think.
So you do need to turn on your microphone and make yourself known.
Nope.
Okay, did the committee wish to move on to the next item, or did they wish to wait?
I can see him.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you need to turn on your microphone so that we can hear you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
There we go. Good.
Okay. Perfect.
Did you have a chance to read the comments that were posted?
Yes, I did.
And do you have any questions?
No question.
Okay, committee? Nancy?
Motion for approval.
Is that as amended? by
As
zoning?
amended.
Thank you.
Okay. Motion made by Nancy, seconded by Laverne. All in favor? Opposed?
Seeing none?
Motion carried, application approved.
Thank you.
All right, we're all set for the next item. We're hearing ANB 2323 for 623 Shaver Road in Ancaster. We have the agents registered to speak.
Hi, good morning.
And no interested parties.
Okay, is the agent available?
I'm ready.
Did you have a chance to read the comments that were posted?
Yes, I have no concerns with the conditions of approval for the application. However, I would like to use this opportunity to provide some clarifications on why the application is being tabled. I've read.
Sorry, are you requesting the application be tabled?
No, according to the staff report, they want to table the application due to some information that's required, and I was already able to convey all the information to city staff, and earlier this morning there are further clarifications that they have, and I was already also able to provide clarifications on those two items that they have provided. Ultimately, I would like to, I'm okay with tabling the application, but I would like to request the committee to include our application in the next committee of agenda meeting. As we are, I'm in continuation of correspondence with city staff.
Okay. So is availability on the next?
Yes, so it could be scheduled for June 1st at 9:10 a.m. If that is the committee's wish.
So your wishes are to table, to hear to the next available
Yes,
hearing,
please.
which is June the 1st?
June 1st, that's right.
Oh, Bob?
Move to table.
Okay, second. Nancy, all in favor?
Thank you so
Opposed?
much.
Seeing none?
Seeing none?
Motion carried, application tabled.
Thank you so
Application
much.
is tabled until June 1st at 9:10 a.m. No further notice will be required. It is your responsibility to make sure that you contact staff and ask them to provide additional comments, because we will not be circulating for comments.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, and we're all set for the next file. We're hearing ANA 2391 for 287 Highway 52 North in Ancaster. We have the agent registered to speak and no interested parties.
Is the agent available?
Oh, I think your microphone is muted.
My apologies. Yes, I'm available. My name is David Carruthers from Carruthers and Associates.
Okay, did you have a chance to read the comments that were posted?
Yes, I did.
And do you have any questions?
No, I don't.
Committee? Laverne?
Move it.
Moved by Laverne, seconded by? Mel, all in favor? Opposed?
Seeing none?
Motion carried, application approved.
Great. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
All right, and we're all set for the next file. We're hearing ANA 2395 for 476 Book Road East in Ancaster. We have the agent registered to speak, as well as the owners, and no other interested parties.
Okay, is the agent available?
So if the person speaking for the application could come forward to the table and make sure that your microphone is turned on when you're speaking.
Yes, did you have a chance to read the comments that were posted?
I did, yes.
And would you wish to table? I see they recommend denial, but would you wish to table and?
Yeah, we are looking to table, I think, and look at some options for the design.
No?
I'll move the table then on behalf of the owners.
Second by Nancy. All in favor? Opposed?
Seeing none?
Motion carried, application tabled.
Okay, thank you.
Just for clarity, David, are you still on the call? Yeah.
I am, but my camera keeps on going off and then on and then off and then on, and I'm just have to turn it on every time, every like 2 or 3 minutes, but I'm
That's
still
for
on
sure.
here.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thanks.
So we are all set for the next file. So we're hearing DNA 2386 for 102 Creighton Road in Dundas. We have the agent registered to speak and one interested party.
Is the agent available?
Yes, that's me.
Did you have a chance to read the comments that were posted?
Absolutely.
Okay, do you have any questions?
Nope.
Okay, we have one citizen.
So we will hear from Ann Collinson.
Hi, I'm Ann Collinson. I'm the next door neighbor at 106 Creighton Road, and I was just here to say I'm supportive of this.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Moved by Mark, seconded by Laverne. All in favor? Opposed?
Seeing none?
Motion carried, application approved.
Thank you. And just for clarity, was that motion with the condition recommended by development planning? That was that the variances approved shall be generally in keeping with site plan SP 1.0 as submitted?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, thank you. All right, and we are all set for the next file. So we are hearing GLA 2392 for 3013 Trinity Church Road in Glanbrook. We have the owners registered to speak and no other interested parties.
Is the owner available?
So if the owner who's speaking on behalf of the application could come forward and make sure that your microphone is turned on when you're speaking.
Did you have a chance to read the comments that were posted?
Yes, I did.
And do you have any questions? No. Committee, any questions? Nancy?
Motion for approval.
Motion made by Nancy, seconded by Mal. All in favor? Opposed?
Seeing none?
Motion carried, application approved.
Thank you very much.
All right, and we're all set for the next file. So we're hearing GLA 2316 for 3033 to 3063 Binbrook Road in Glanbrook. We have the agent registered to speak and one interested party.
Okay, is the agent available?
Good morning, members of the committee. Matt Johnson with Urban Solutions. I do have a brief presentation I would like to roll through. I've had a chance to read the staff report, and I think the presentation would be beneficial. Happy to hear from the residents first or proceed in advance, either way.
Okay, maybe we'll hear from the one resident first, and then you can maybe answer the questions that she has during your presentation.
All right, so we will hear from Catherine Golightly first. So please turn your microphone on when you are speaking.
Good morning, or is it afternoon now? Oh, it's still morning. I live next door to the development that's going to go in, and the proposed variance involves, one of the aspects is extending the balconies further out from the building, I believe. If I'm wrong about that, I apologize. But on the east side of our house, facing the west side of the building, we have 2-bedroom windows our family room window and our kitchen window. We have our driveway and front door facing that direction, and I feel like it would be quite an infringement on our privacy to have the balconies push out closer to our property. So the other aspect is the 7-story instead of 6-story. And this building has gone already 3 stories above and beyond what would have been the Binbrook, the plan for Binbrook was only maximum 3 stories. Now we're at 6 and we're pushing for 7. There's already, I believe, a problem with the amount of parking, and there's going to be a problem with traffic on Binbrook Road because of the 6 stories. And now we're talking about adding another additional number of residents, more cars, more traffic. Binbrook Road has a building that's a heritage building right on the corner of Binbrook and 56, which will not move, which means that that corner, which this building is very close to, they can't make it they can't make the road any wider, and it's already an unsafe turning for trucks, etc. And there's already traffic back up there on a daily basis during rush hour times. So additional occupants of this building will add to that problem. And I don't believe there's enough parking planned for this building already. There's no street parking. Whatever they've provided in their plan, that's all the parking they're going to have. And there's nothing for the commercial on the first floor. So there's already an issue. And I don't think 7 stories is going to make it better. I think it's going to make it worse. That's all. Thank you.
Okay. What's your address?
3073 Binbrook Road.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Matt?
Yes, I'll just take a moment to share my screen. And thank you for the neighbor for coming out today. I do think I'll be able to answer some of those questions. So again, it's Matt Johnston, registered professional planner with Urban Solutions, here on behalf of Binbrook Heritage Developments. This is the second time back. Some of you will recall the application was tabled so we could clarify some of the variances specific to the balconies. So here we have an aerial of the subject lands. From an official plan perspective, we're in the neighborhoods designation. More specifically, that was the urban structure plan. On the land use plan, we're located in the mixed use medium density designation. Here we are in the secondary plan for Binbrook, where you'll see we're in a site specific policy area S, and it's area S that speaks to the previous hearing that was taken place to accommodate this development. In doing so, that development went through a LPAT, as it was called, the old OMB, the old LPAT, now the OLT, where a site-specific zone was put in place. It's now zoned C3 with the site-specific 317. And what that 317 does is permit 6 stories in building height or a maximum of 26 meters in height. And it uses that combination specifically. I've touched on that OLT hearing, so I'll just recap quickly. That process started way back in 2016. Ultimately, it led to a 2021 OLT decision that approved the 26-meter building height, or 6 stories. Since following that, we received conditional site plan approval. And we've been moving through that site plan approval process. And really what's come to light is the need to revisit building height. Now, I'm going to close out on building height because it seems to be, I think, the more contentious issue from a staff report perspective. But when it comes to variances number 2 and 3, we do have full support for these variances from staff. And what they're really doing is accommodating the rooftop amenity that was always envisioned but not accounted for in the zoning bylaw. So we have these 2 areas highlighted in red that talk about this balcony encroachment, which is utilizing the rooftop terrace in that location. And again, we have full support from staff on both of those. Moving on to what's more contentious in the staff report is the notion of building height. So again, the OLT decision permitted 6 stories or 26 meters. That's that dark red line you see on the screen here. That's the envelope that was approved as an as-of-right building envelope. Within that, we have to scale our 7-story product. And the decision was really made to look at going to the 7 stories, not to increase the number of units. Actually, the number of units will remain the same. This is only to accommodate more family-friendly units, larger suites, which is something that's quite notable if you're dialed into the approval process for multiple dwellings. Family size, larger units is always one of the key drivers from a planning staff perspective. So again, we're not looking to raise the height higher than was already approved. We're just looking to accommodate a 7th story in this as-of-right building envelope. And again, when we talk about building height, one of our main tests to our residents is the angular plane analysis. This angular plane shows the south property line on the left side. 45 degrees is the general rule. That's your blue line. And here we are coming in at an angular plane of 29 degrees. So yes, we're talking about adding height, but we're so far below the angular plane that it's a tool that we can use to be satisfied we have no adverse impact. Here we have the angular plane out from the street line, and we're again below that blue line, which is our 45-degree angular plane from Binbrook Road. And again, you can see the orange line across the top, which is our maximum building height permitted in the OLT decision at 26 meters. So we're still below that when we come in at 22.7. We did hear from residents in the staff report. Some comments were submitted, comments that were just made. From a density perspective, again, we're not increasing the maximum number of units. The number of units is remaining the same. Traffic, again, another consideration considered through the LPAT hearing, again, not changing because we're not increasing the number of units. Infrastructure capacity, and another consideration through the old hearing, one that's really secured through the site plan process that we're moving through now. Similarly, you may have read concerns over grading, stormwater management. As you know, that's thoroughly considered through the site plan application stage, as is noise and light pollution. We've got that process in place to have a site lighting plan approved. And it's not all doom and gloom from the public. We actually do have support. You'll see residents speaking in favor of the application, recognizing the need for family-size units in Binbrook. It's really important to bring a built form like this to a community like Binbrook where it doesn't exist. And I think when we go back through the 4 tests, what we're really talking about, where we're at odds with staff, is this notion of building height, adding the story. Yes, we considered this through a previous hearing, but when we look at adding the story in a way that still respects the maximum approved height, it's certainly one that satisfies the 4 tests. And with that said, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, so I believe I'm actually reading the decision here, and it says a maximum height of 26 meters and 6 stories, not or. So it has to satisfy both conditions according to the actual decision. So I think that saying that it's or is a little disingenuous. You have to satisfy both of those conditions according to the previous decision.
Okay.
Just my comment.
Thomas?
If I could, I did have that language correctly on the slide where I showed the as of right height with that red line. You're right, it is 26 meters and 6 stories. we're asking for and 7. And again, we're well under that 26 meter cap. And in that sense, the intent of that cap is maintained. That would be our position there. Thank you.
Thomas?
Thank you.
I don't think it lights up.
I'm wondering, I'm not clear, what's on the 7th story?
The 7th story is more residential units. It's all residential units above the 1st story, but it's not more residential units. It's just to accommodate larger units throughout the entirety of the project.
I'm looking at your diagram. I don't know if I'm miscounting it. I don't know if I counted 7. That's what.
It is indeed, the proposal is indeed to go to the full 7. And still being, 3.5 meters below the maximum building height in meters.
No, but, are there 7 stories? Can you just flash your diagram again?
Is the first story commercial and then 6 stories of residential? Is that?
I thought I only counted 6 stories. That's what, maybe I've miscounted.
Sorry, let me just go back on the screen. So what I'll do is zoom in on,
I mean,
so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Oh, that top part is 7.
That's right.
It just looks different than the rest of the building,
That's a penthouse.
Well, that's why I'm asking what's on the 7th story, and I asked how many units as well. I don't think I got an answer.
So the number of units again is not increasing from the.
No, how many on the 7th story? The proposed 7th story.
Sorry, through the chair, I don't have the floor plan as part of my PowerPoint, so I would, I can pull that while we're chatting.
It looks like it might be a small number of penthouses. Is that sort of an accurate assessment?
While Matt's looking that up, Nancy, did you have a question?
I did, and I do, and I'm, yeah, okay. So with all due respect to all the residents of community of Binbrook as it sits, most of the objections we're hearing refer to Binbrook as still being a village, a town, a rural part of Hamilton, and I find that a little difficult because there has been such an influx of building in Binbrook over the last 15 years anyway. They've added schools, they've added shopping and roads, and yes, they may not have McDonald's and they may not have other things, and I know those, a gas station.
Not yet.
Those things have been proposed, and I'm sure in light of all these additional residences, those things will become part of community of Binbrook. Matt, the question I have is, since you are staying under the red line, if you will, did you then decrease the ceiling heights in those units to make it that way? Instead of 9 or 8 or something like that?
Yeah, there is a combination of 2-story units, so that it allows for some play in the ceiling heights.
Okay. Okay, thank you, that makes sense. And then in terms of traffic, I guess anything that's close to a major intersection, where this is only a few meters down the road to an intersection, you're going to have that backup anyway. I always question traffic unless there's a feasibility study or a traffic study that all people will be moving in and out at the same time of the day. That's not going to happen as a resident so much as it would with a commercial building like an office space or an industrial space. So unless someone can give me other reasons why not, I don't have any issues with this.
And I don't, in the variances, I don't see any parking issues, which I'm amazed, but because I don't know where people are going to park. Laverne.
We do have underground parking, and we're not varying the required parking ratio.
Okay. Laverne?
I don't think I got an answer for how many units on that 7th story. Is that something you can answer or not?
Is your microphone?
I mean,
Mr. Chair, I am.
Sorry?
I am looking for that answer, sir.
Okay.
I mean, if it's all within 26 feet, then the question is, what's the difference, 6 or 7 stories? And obviously, the difference would be the number of people, perhaps.
Well, and that's what
You did say that the number of units aren't changing.
Exactly.
Earlier, yeah.
Exactly.
I think with Margaret's comment, Matt's referring back to the OLT decision, and it said 2 things, right? And you've accomplished one of them. You're staying under the 26 meters or max. Laverne, just go back. Laverne?
Just my read on this whole thing. I believe we've heard that Binbrook is a bedroom town to Hamilton, so to speak. However, living near there, I call it the cookie cutter village. Because what we're doing is building all sorts of cookie cutter homes out there and trying to put up monster buildings. And currently we're dealing with a situation here which exceeds a bylaw which says you can build 3 stories. Now we've gone to 6 and we're being asked for 7. And as the scuttlebutt goes around Binbrook right now, and I can take you to the exact location where the fellow says that if this goes to 7, I'm asking for 10 on my property, and that's on 56 Highway. So what's that going to be cut down to? So where does all of this stop? How far do we push this envelope? I think the tallest thing that we've got in Binbrook right now is the water tower. And here we go, we're starting to put in these taller buildings. I think sooner or later, we have to bring an end to all of this. And I know that the LPAC or OMB have said that you can go to 26 meters and we're staying under that. However, we're still well above the three stories that was originally put in the bylaw. I did attend the meetings at the Glenbrook offices when they were talking about trying to increase this and put it to much more than 6 stories. But here again, I think it's a situation where somebody asks for something much more than is allowed and hoping they can get it cut back to something that's probably double what is approved. So I do have a problem with this. And I don't say that because I live in Binbrook. It's the same as if it was Freelton, Rockton, or any other area in Hamilton, Wentworth. And I think that this whole thing is a little extreme. So I would not be in favor of this.
Mel? Yeah, I'll support my colleague here, Vern. And so they went to OLT and got 6 instead of 4. They were asking for, I think they were at 10 to start with, got it down to 6. And I know that there's not enough water capacity in Binbrook right now. There's not enough sewer capacity to handle what's going on. And I'm concerned about going up the extra story because it's opening up the can of worms. So I can't support it at this time.
If I could just respond to a couple of the things that I heard, we hear about capacity concerns on infrastructure. These things have been vetted. We can't just wonder if. We know that there is, and that there's a process in place to connect and ensure that that box is checked. When I hear about what's happening to Binbrook. I look at this and I say, are we really going down the road of another OLT hearing when I'm a number of stories below the test of an angular plane? What we're going to do to this project and bringing on housing affordability when we go to the OLT and we say, yes, we're looking for another story that's 3 meters under the existing maximum envelope. And I struggle with that, and I would hate that a project has to be put down that road, because we are looking at the growing possibility of this being a rental project, and to continue to slow things down like this is exactly why we're struggling with our cost of housing in Ontario today. So this is not about adding new units. This is not about going taller. This is about making more family-sized units, and that's all that's really happening here. The building is not getting taller, and I heard those comments. I'm not sure if that was enough to sway, but I just would be remiss if I didn't try to hammer that home one more time. Thank you.
I have a couple more members with questions, and I just, I'm sure that before you come to this point in the process, that the city would have already recognized the potential of the use or need of water, and also the sewage. And I would suspect that standards are already there, and the size and the capacity is already there, or they wouldn't allow you to get to this development. And we know that the government's pushing for more intensification, and supposedly the infrastructure is there in Binbrook to handle that. I'll go to Bob first, and then Nancy. Sorry.
So my question is this: why would staff have a problem with your suggestion, as opposed to, like, you're not adding any more units, you're not exceeding the height, so to them is 7 a hard number?
So I think that, through the chair, I think that it's a good question. I think that the problem is that the site-specific official plan does speak to 6 stories. And my answer and that is sort of the fundamental issue in terms of why they can't support it. Again, yes, there's a number noted in the official plan, and that your test is not, does it conform to that number? The question today is the intent of that number met? And certainly the intent of that number is to control height from a massing perspective. And that height is then further secured in the zoning bylaw that says 6 and 26 meters. The fact that we're well under that 26 meters tells me as a professional that the intent of that 6-story notation is satisfied. It's not, does it conform? Does it meet the intent? And
so I guess what I was getting at, is it beneficial for us to table this, for you to still deal with staff on it? Or if it is a hard number, from our perspective, it'd be pretty hard to argue that it isn't minor.
Thank you. At this point, we have worked with staff to refine the other variances that are on the agenda or on the application. We've talked this through with staff, and I don't think that there's anything more I can say to change that position that they put forward. Your question, is it minor? It's the collection of the 4 tests. I think that we're specifically up against is the test of the intent of the official plan, and it's a number in the plan, and we have to think about the intent of that number. Like I said, the intent is to control height, and we're still under that control by saying and respecting the 26 meters.
Nancy?
Thank you. Just one more comment, maybe 2. I'm going to lay some blame here on the OLT on this by using stories instead of height, because if I wanted to be a real idiot about this, I could put 6 stories that are higher than that and go for the difference in height. I could put 12-foot ceilings in there on a couple of floors or so on. So, I mean, if it said or, that's a different thing. We wouldn't be back here today for you asking for a variance on this if it hadn't even gone to 6. So for those who are saying Binbrook's still a 3-story town, too late. The OLT has said it is okay to have 6. The other part is, and you alluded to this in terms of housing, for all of those wonderful people who've maintained Binbrook for thousands of years, hundreds of years, I guess, they will now potentially have a place for their younger family members or their older family members to live when something like this is built. So I will leave it to my colleagues to proceed.
Okay, Laverne.
My final comment. We're talking about traffic. We're talking about parking. We're talking about a whole bunch of stuff around Binbrook. Last night at 6:15, there was absolutely no parking other than in the Shoppers Drug Mart parking lot. People are bypassing Binbrook because it's such a mess. Kirk Road, Fletcher's Road, Hendershot Road, and Guyot Road are the perimeter roads around Binbrook. And those roads are so well used that even houses are going up for sale because people want to get away from them and move out of the area. This morning, another house is up for sale on Hendershot Road, and I don't see it ending anytime soon. The traffic situation, and we've heard that there's no gas stations, that there's this, there's that, there's other thing. There's a couple of restaurants on the north side of Binbrook that are not being utilized because nobody is coming through Binbrook. They want to avoid it if they can. I think the whole idea of that small town is lost, and I see nothing wrong with growth, if you will. However, I think that this is a little extreme. Thank you.
Okay. Thomas?
My final comment. Perhaps. Yeah, as I read the situation, the locals have said 3 stories, presumably planned water, sewers, et cetera, for that kind of growth. And the boys in Toronto have stuffed 6 stories down their throat and basically said, there it is, deal with it. And maybe that 6 should be the hard number.
Margaret.
Okay. No. I'm speaking.
Sorry, we have a committee member who's speaking.
I just had a comment about Thomas's, if I could have a moment to correct something, but I'll let the committee member go, sorry.
Yes, I have no problem with varying rezoning bylaws. However, I have a little bit of a problem with variances for official plans. And also, this was a negotiated settlement last year or the year before, where it was agreed that the maximum height would be 6 stories. So I have a problem with anything else. I am prepared to make a motion, but I would.
I think Matt had a comment or whatever, if you want to
Yes.
hear that first.
I will hear his comment, and then I'd like to make a motion.
Okay, Matt?
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, and the most recent speaker just touched on it. This wasn't a decision forced on Binbrook from downtown Toronto. This was a council-endorsed settlement a settlement reached between staff and council and the proponent. So I just didn't want it characterized as in that fashion, that this was a forced decision. It was not contested. It was indeed a settlement, as Margaret spoke to. So wanted to just point that clarification. Thank you.
Margaret?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion for approval of variances 2 and 3 and denial of variance 1.
Okay, motion's been made by Margaret, seconded by Mel. All in favor of that motion? Everyone understand? Opposed?
David, are you opposed or in favor of the motion? Oh, I think your microphone's turned off.
I'm opposed.
You're opposed? Okay, thank you. So we have 3 opposed.
So then that's carried.
That is.
Motion's carried. Application is approved in part. Variance,
So that was approved variances 2 and 3 and denial of variance 1 as listed on the notice of public hearing.
yes. Okay.
Thank you.
And I think to the neighbor or whatever, did you catch the drawings there? I think there's quite a distance between your house and the end of the building.
Yes, and
So the balconies, I think the balconies are going to be quite a ways away from your house.
yes, I do see that there is some parking in between the building itself and our house, so that helps a little. I don't know if it is worth mentioning, but we actually have a well right beside our house on that side. And
So a recommendation would be, to test that water
yes,
before any construction starts. And so you have a record. And then if something happens during construction, then you have something to go back on.
thank you, I appreciate that.
Sorry, I just wanted to clarify, was the approval in part with the conditions that were recommended by, I believe, Heritage and Urban Design, or was that without those conditions? So they were with regards to an outstanding CHIA addendum and a document and salvage report with the conditions? Okay.
Okay.
All right, that is the conclusion.
Hearing
We do
adjourned.
not have any other items. We just need a motion.
Motion for adjournment. Mel?
Any opposed? No? Okay. All right, meeting is adjourned.